Tonight, when it gets dark, you're going to turn on a light without thinking about it. But that reflex is so new it barely registers on the timeline of human existence. For almost all of history, that option didn't exist. And what humans did instead changed everything about who we became. We spend a lot of time talking about what ancient humans did during the day. The hunting, the foraging, the surviving. But nobody asks about the other half, the dark half. Because for 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors spent roughly half their life in near total darkness. Not city dark, not the kind of dark where you can still make out the shape of your furniture. The kind of dark where you cannot see your own hand directly in front of your face. And they had between 8 and 14 hours of it, every single night. So what did they actually do with all of it? The answer is stranger than you'd expect. And it starts with something so obvious we almost always get it wrong. Fire didn't just keep ancient humans warm, that's the boring version. What fire actually did was restructure the entire human day in a way that permanently altered our species. Before fire, when the sun went down, life stopped. Our eyes are genuinely terrible in the dark compared to the things that hunted us. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, all of them saw just fine after sunset. We couldn't. So you did what every other primate did. You found a high branch or a sheltered rock, and you stayed completely still and hoped nothing noticed you until morning. Then, fire happened. A campfire creates a circle of safety roughly 30 feet across. Inside that circle, predators won't come. Outside it, you die. The fire wasn't light, it was a wall. But here's the thing nobody mentions. That wall also created something that had never existed before in the entire history of our species. Free time after dark. Think about what that actually means. Before fire, the useful day ended at sunset. 12 hours in summer, as few as 8 in winter. Fire added 2 to 4 usable hours to every single day. For the first time in history, humans had time they didn't know what to do with, and what they did with it built everything. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wisner published a study on the Jew Huansi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert. During the day, roughly 80% of all conversation was practical. Who's hunting where? Which plants are edible? Logistics, disputes, resource management. Daytime talk was essentially a workplace. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. At night, 81% of conversations were stories. Wiesner argued that firelight conversation is where human culture was born. Not in temples, not in cities, not in any of the places we usually point to. Around fires, in the dark, with nothing else to do. The campfire was the original theater, the original university, the original church. But here's where the story turns genuinely strange. Because what happened when they finally slept was nothing like what happens when you do. You were not designed to sleep the way you sleep right now. In 2001, historian Roger E. Kirsch published a paper that quietly detonated inside the world of sleep science. He kept finding the same 2 words. First sleep, second sleep. Before the industrial age, people did not sleep in one continuous block. They went to bed shortly after dark, slept for around 4 hours, then woke up naturally. Stayed awake for 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the night. Then went back to sleep until dawn. 2 distinct sleeps with a quiet window in between. This wasn't unusual. This wasn't a disorder. This was simply how humans slept, everywhere, for thousands of years, across every culture Ikirch could find records for. And here's what makes it even stranger. Historians had been reading these references for centuries and kept translating first sleep as something else entirely. Because the idea that people ever slept differently than we do now was so far outside their experience, they literally couldn't see it written on the page. So what did people do during that middle window? A 16th century French physician recommended it as the best time for couples to conceive children. People visited neighbors in the dark. They interpreted dreams while the images were still fresh. They prayed. They wrote. Many simply lay still in the quiet and thought in a way that felt different from ordinary thinking. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health removed all artificial light from a group of volunteers. 14 hours of darkness per night. 1 month. No instruction on how to sleep. just darkness. Within weeks, without a single suggestion from researchers, every participant settled into the same pattern. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness. 4 more hours of sleep, spontaneously, as participants were flooded with prolactin, the same hormone released during deep meditation, during the hours after orgasm. A chemical state of calm so complete it has no real equivalent in ordinary waking life. The participants described it as peaceful in a way that was hard to articulate. Not groggy, not restless, just extraordinarily, unusually still. It wasn't a gap between sleeps. It was its own state of consciousness entirely, one that most humans alive today have never once experienced. So what happened to it? The answer is almost insultingly simple. The light came on, and it never went off again. In the 1600s, cities began installing street lamps. Paris was among the first under Louis XIV who wanted to reduce crime. London followed. Candles got cheaper, gas lamps arrived in the 1800s. Then in 1879, Edison commercialized the electric bulb, and within a single generation, a sleep pattern that had existed for hundreds of thousands of years simply ceased. Your body still hasn't caught up. Modern humans are exposed to artificial light an average of 7 to 8 hours past sunset every night. That light, and especially the blue light radiating from every screen you own, tells your brain it is still daytime. Melatonin gets suppressed, your circadian rhythm, the one shaped by millions of years of darkness, gets quietly overridden. Every night, without fail. Researchers have found that just 1 week of camping with no artificial light at all resets human melatonin cycles by nearly 2 hours. That meditative window, that strange chemical stillness between first and second sleep, the state that felt like the best version of being awake, gone. And in its place, we got insomnia, fragmented sleep, the 2 a.m. spiral, racing thoughts in the dark with nowhere to put them. And then we called it a disorder. But what if it isn't a disorder at all? What if waking at 2 a.m. and lying there in the quiet isn't your brain malfunctioning? What if it's your brain arriving, right on schedule, at a destination that no longer exists? For 300,000 years, your ancestors spent every night the same way, gathered inside the only circle of safety they had, telling stories that slowly, over thousands of generations, became language and myth and music and every question religion has ever tried to answer. Sleeping in 2 waves with a window of rare stillness in between. Living inside a darkness so complete and so total that the Milky Way wasn't a place you drove 2 hours from the city to see. It was just the sky. Every night, without exception, for 300,000 years. We traded all of that for a light switch. We flooded the night with light and called it progress. And the ancient dark retreated and took everything it had built inside us with it. The strangest part isn't what we lost. It's that we lost it so fast, we never even noticed it was gone.